Are you thinking about moving to the Woodlands, Texas? If you are, you probably have a lot of questions about this awesome community. On today's video, we're going to talk about the pros and the cons of living right here in the Woodlands, Texas. My name is Chase, and I've been a local resident of the Woodlands for 18 years. You might be like many of the families and people that reach out to us about buying real estate here in the Woodlands. If you are, feel free to call, text us, or subscribe to this channel to learn more about living in the Woodlands, Texas. So you may have seen on many of our other videos, we talk about all the pros of living in the Woodlands, but we've surveyed some of our clients, I've talked to some of my neighbors and our close friends about things that maybe aren't their favorite about living in the Woodlands. So I wanna hopefully give an unbiased opinion today about the pros and cons of the Woodlands. The very first thing that I want to talk about is one of the main reasons that people move here, and that is the nature, right? We put the woods in the woodlands, and there are tons of trees because of that, right? So the first pro that I want to talk about is how close and immersed you are in nature in this community. There are tons of trees like we talked about. There's not a lot of signage. We actually bury our utilities underground, so there's no power lines or telephone poles or anything like that. So you get this nice, clean, crisp, manicured streets and neighborhoods whenever you live in the community, and people really like that. It adds to a nicer kind of higher quality of life. There's less stimulation, right? You're not down in Houston where there's tons of billboards and ads and all this hustle and bustle. There is definitely a noticeable difference whenever you enter the Woodlands in how it is manicured and how it's presented to you. Now, negative of that is because there are so many trees and because there aren't huge billboards, it can be hard to navigate in the Woodlands. So there are actually ordinances where street signs or shopping center advertisements have to be lower than 6 feet tall. Street signs aren't blaring big lights in front of you, so it can be hard to navigate. Some of our clients say that they have to use Google Maps for up to a year to really feel like they have their bearings because there are so many trees. Another kind of negative that goes alongside of that is because there are a lot of trees, there are lots of allergies. We kind of every year get this big wave of pollen that comes through our community from the pine trees. And that can affect me personally. I've got pretty bad allergies, but that's something to consider whenever you move here, as well as pine needles. People talk a lot about that too, right? If you have a pool in your backyard, you may need to hire a pool person, or you're gonna be out there in certain times of year cleaning up those pine needles a little more often. So the next thing I want to talk about are the schools in the Woodlands. And the pros of that is what I want to start with. So I personally went to the Woodlands High School and I loved my time there. And the Woodlands High School and the Woodlands College Park are both part of the overarching Conroe Independent School District, which is nationally acclaimed and rated very highly. We always recommend our clients go to niche.com to get school ratings, to learn more about the feeder schools and the high schools and all those extra details and how they're ranked. But one of the things that I do want to talk about is the fact that they're a little bit larger than most high schools. And I think that's a good thing because there's a lot of opportunity. So whether your son or daughter or student wants to focus on academics or sports or extracurricular clubs, there's going to be something there for them. And it's great because they have the opportunity to thrive. Or if they want to do multiple things, there's just a lot of opportunity. Now, a negative of going to a large high school is how competitive it can be, right? So in Texas, we are a top 10% school going to college's automatic acceptance. So there can be more competition for those higher ranking colleges. Additionally, if your kid wants to excel in sports, going to a larger school where there's a larger pool of maybe football players, they may not get as much playing time. So it can be a double-edged sword there on, there's a lot of opportunity, but it can be, really competitive. The next thing that we're going to talk about is real estate, which is my favorite topic here in the Woodlands. Obviously, we are a team of real estate agents and we can help you find your next property if you're looking to move here in the Woodlands. So the first thing I want to talk about regarding the Woodlands is actually how low our property tax is. Compared to other communities around us, we have a low property tax. And I'll make another video about that, but it's gonna range anywhere from 3% all the way down to like 1.9%. And that's not of the purchase price, that's of the price that your home is assessed at by the county. And we can talk more about that in another video. So because of low property taxes, we do have higher priced houses, right? Affordability is kind of a negative in the Woodlands. It's hard to find these days anything under $250,000. So our price points are typically $300,000 all the way up to over $7 million, right? So that is a negative. If you're looking, or if you're on a tighter budget, it can be a harder community to find a home in, but that's not to say we can't find you something. There's communities around the Woodlands that have easy access to all the amenities that we have, and we can find you something there. Another thing about the real estate in the Woodlands is that there's no more new construction. Now, we referenced this on another video, and I'll link that below. But a lot of the houses started being built in the Woodlands around 1974. That was whenever we first started building. And then we ended construction of new homes right around 2015, 2017. So there's no active new construction unless people are tearing down homes and building, multi-million-dollar houses on these great, nice lots. So if you're wanting new construction, that's a negative because we got to go just outside to find something that can fit that need for you. The majority of our homes were built between like 1985 and 2000. And so there's actually a lot of people that are coming in and renovating these houses and relisting them for sale. So you can find something that's updated and more modern, but it might just depend on the area that you're looking in, where we may have a challenge finding, that specific house or the availability of it. Depending on the village that you want to be in, we've got 9 villages in the Woodlands, and they range in different ages as they continue to build out our community. So the newer stuff is towards the back of the Woodlands. Sterling Ridge, Indian Springs, Creekside is actually in Harris County. That's our newest village. And then you've got Grogan's Mill, where people are tearing down homes and they're building these new contemporary houses on them. Panther Creek. The options are endless, but that just goes to show that depending on your location and maybe what schools you want to be zoned to, that'll limit our search for availability of houses. If you're getting value from this video, I'd really appreciate it if you liked it and if you subscribe to our channel. The next thing that I think is a huge plus about the Woodlands is the recreation and the lifestyle that we have here. So there are over 110 parks in the Woodlands. 13 of those parks actually have swimming pools, and we have over 140 miles of hike and bike trails. Those are paved hike and bike trails. You may have seen people going behind me in the video, riding bikes or walking or jogging, and that's part of the life here in the Woodlands. Some of my closest friends are actually from my running group here, and we use those hike and bike trails all the time. We've got a Woodlands Marathon. There's an Ironman that comes here, a big triathlon that comes and competes here. And so the community really embraces that and loves the active lifestyle. A negative of that is that in order to have all those parks, in order to have the space and the trees and that lifestyle, you have to remove yourself from Houston a little bit to have that space. So we're about 30 miles from downtown, and if you have to commute downtown, like my wife, you may, encounter some traffic, or you may have to account for that in your schedule. There's some great options. There's the Hardy Toll Road. We've got a great toll system to be able to get you downtown. There's also the Woodlands Park and Ride, which my wife takes, and she takes that downtown. There's multiple buses, multiple times, multiple pickup spots, and they drop you off at the Med Center, at the Energy Corridor, at downtown, and all these places where you can, commute. But if you're wanting to go down for dinner or for an Astros game or something, it's gonna take you a little bit of time because you gotta, drive 30 miles down there. Another thing that I wanna talk about is the restaurant kind of lifestyle. I mentioned going into Houston for maybe grabbing a drink or dinner with some friends. The Woodlands has a pretty good amount of local mom and pop restaurants, but I would love to see there be more of them. Part of that reason, I think, is because our commercial real estate is expensive, so it's hard for those mom and pop restaurants to flourish. Now, we are seeing a lot of those local Houston restaurants that are maybe now have 1 or 2 locations. They're coming up here. So we're getting a lot of really cool, more local restaurants, and that's growing, but I'd love to see more here in the Woodlands. If you're looking to be a homeowner in the Woodlands, one of the things that you're gonna love is that we do not have an HOA. Unless you're in a gated community or a townhome community, the majority of the Woodlands houses do not have a homeowners association. Now, we are part of the Woodlands Township, and you do pay in your property taxes for the upkeep of the community and for sheriff's department and fire department and things like that. But as we talked about, our property taxes are pretty low compared to other communities for all the amenities that we're getting. Another great thing that people talk about is that we are a bubble here in the Woodlands. And what they mean by that is that everything you really need is located here. So your local grocery store is going to be at your village shopping center. You're going to have a dry cleaners, your Walgreens, there's going to be, stores for you to shop at. You're going to have local restaurants there. So there's not exactly a reason that you would need to leave, in addition to all the jobs and the industry that's here in the Woodlands and continues to move here for the commercial space. We're having a lot of jobs move here. So there's a lot of demand for housing here in the Woodlands. A negative is that we don't necessarily have a lot of diversity that you would have if you live down in Houston. So there's not as many cultural centers or shopping centers or grocery stores are more limited to kind of the bigger chain grocery stores that you may see. And if you're a younger person, you may not get as much of a nightlife as you would, down in Houston because of just how our community is oriented here in the Woodlands. I hope you got a lot of value from this video and learned more about moving to the Woodlands. My information is going to be down below. Feel free to pick up that phone, shoot us a text, or send us an email, or maybe even find us on Instagram and shoot us a DM if you want to get more information about moving to the Woodlands. Lots of families give us calls. We talk about the villages. We talk about moving here and talk about the real estate process with them. And we'd love to be able to help you if you're thinking about moving here. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.